Good morning, everyone.
Party time.
Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, episode 353, the basic maths of buying a property. Today is all about the numbers. We love the numbers. Sorry, Lisa, if you're going to watch this.
Love the numbers.
She doesn't love the numbers.
Love them. We have,
Mark,
and so cash flow. We're talking about cash flow. We're talking about how much capital. We're talking about deposits, all for a property. If you don't know,
and also just that mindset, because it's never been as good to buy a property than it is now. There's never been so many incentives to buy, but also so many other external incentives that you would normally look at buying, which aren't there, like money in the bank that used to get you 2%, maybe a little bit more. That's basically 0.05, I think, or something like that. So there's a lot of incentives to be putting your money in property at the moment.
Nuts. Subject property we're going to use is in Freshwater, highly desired suburb, probably out of the northern beaches of Sydney, one of the most desirable suburbs. Price point?
$450,000.
Can you believe you can get into Freshwater for under $5? It exists.
It's insane.
Okay. Now, if I'm going to go buy this, Michael Bergio, if I'm going to go buy this, how much deposit do I need to buy this property? Now, there's probably some ins and outs, but this is kindergarten maths. It's real basic. Okay, let's give a first home buyer example.
Yeah, first home buyer with the new deposit scheme, you'll only need 5%. Let me check. I'll bring up the property. Give me 2 seconds. I want to show the people the property.
So a first home buyer can buy.
Yeah, 450 divided by 2. What's that? 22 and a half. So it's about $22,000.
That's all.
Yeah, cash.
That's all. $22,500. Now we're going to bring up the beautiful Freshwater property now as well, so you can have a look. So that's all you need. So you're a first home buyer. All you need is 5% deposit. $22,500 is what you need. Now, if you're an investor, how much do you need? Or should we just stick to first? Let's just stick to first home buyer. We'll wrap up the investor in the back part of it.
Yeah, so with the first home owner grant, as long as all right, so 20% if you're not qualifying for any of the first homeowners, so you're not going to live
do it at the end.
Yeah, is that what you want to do? Well, investors should be the same. You've just got to live in it.
First home buyers. All right, so first home buyer, here we go. So show us the pics what a first home buyer will live in. They're going to be in Freshwater. They're going to be 500 metres to the beach. They're going to be close to transport. They're going to be in a one-bedder. These are the photos.
Yeah.
Living, nice. Bedroom, nice. Kitchen,
Simple.
nice.
Very, very
bathroom,
good.
nice. No money to spend.
No money to spend. What I love here, look at this, Mark. I'll bring up the maps on this.
So your first home buyer, $22,500 is all you need as a deposit if you qualify for the 5% scheme.
Yeah.
All you got to do is ask. And now, what interest rate? So you got the loan, you get approved, you got the deposit, you got the loan. How much is the interest rate? What are you going to have to pay to the bank minimum every month as a first home buyer?
Yeah, so that means loan. So if you're doing 22,000, your loan would be, so let's do 450,000 minus your 22,500 deposit. So your loan amount would be about 427,000. As we know, there's loans that's checked sort of 1.9%. So let's do best and worst case or average case. So at 1.9%. So what 427 times 0.19. So I think it's 8,100 a year. 427.
Okay, so kindergarten maths. Can we bring up Westpac or ANZ or one of the big four?
I can try and do that.
So
later. Yep.
First home buyer, goes onto one of the big banks' websites. Go to the big banks because they're a bit trusted at the moment. Plugs in what interest rate am I going to get? Now, first home buyer
You go through
is
the
not going
grant.
to qualify for interest only.
Do you want to go through the grants while I plug this all into a calculator? What are the three we're talking about?
Yeah. Okay, so there's three. There's the 5% deposit scheme you get as a first home buyer if you qualify. Another one you get is zero stamp duty. So I'm not going to go through all of the scales and this and that. I'm just saying on this property in Freshwater, you will pay no stamp duty. Normally, you would pay about $20,000 in stamp duty. $20,000 of your hard-earned money, you will pay in stamp duty. Not on this property. So that's another thing you'll get. Now, another one that's probably the most unutilized part of the grant system, of the first home buyer system, is you can use your super. Now, this is the tricky dicky one. With your super, if you've got 30 grand or 20 grand sitting in your super, and that was accumulated from contributing 9.5% a year, you can't actually use that part of your super. But any contribution over your 9% a year, you can actually use towards your purchase of your property. So that's right. When people say you can't use your super, they're wrong, because first home buyers can use their super. Again, I'm going to say it, if they qualify. So you may be getting, as a first home buyer, you may be getting a commission check for $10,000, lucky you, from your employer, maybe a one-off payment in a whole year. Now, if you decide to grand slam that straight into your super at the lowest possible tax rate you're ever going to get, then what's going to happen is you can pull out that 10 grand out of your super for the deposit of your property. It's real.
It's real. All righty. You ready?
You got some rates for me? Beefcake?
I've got it.
Yeah.
Oh, where'd it go? Sorry. I'm going to share the screen again.
So they're the three. They're the three, guys. So just to go through those very quickly again, only need a 5% deposit.
Okay. Here we go. 5% deposit. You can use your super to buy. And also just a straight stamp duty off. And also a straight stamp duty off. Okay, Westpac calculator, the loan, $427,000, which is minus 5% deposit we discussed, to live in, over a 30-year term, 2-year fixed, principal and interest.
Guys, if you've just tuned in, guys and girls, we're talking about basic 101 maths on purchasing a property. We've selected one in Freshwater. Michael's brought up on the screen the Westpac's bank mortgage payment calculator, because we've talked about how much deposit you need, only $22,500. Now we're talking about what the interest rate is going to be and the repayments are going to be. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, so 1.9%. We go down here. Your weekly payment will be $389. Keep in mind that's principal and interest. Mark, do you want to go through what is principal and interest for people out there?
Principal means you're paying some of the loan off. Interest means you're paying some of the interest off. So when you have P&I, principal and interest, you're going to be knocking over that loan. If you have an interest-only loan, the loan's always going to remain the same amount. You will never pay it off. So banks with first home buyers do insist that you do principal and interest.
Yeah, it'd be like having a credit card and only paying the interest off each month. You're still going to always owe $10,000. If it's a $10,000 credit card and your interest is $300, it's like only paying $300 off. But paying principal and interest, it'd be like $600 off. So $300 off the interest, $300 off the card. So your weekly payment will be $389. Beautiful example. Look at this graph. How good is it? Graph, table. So year one interest charged will be $8,000. Year two, $7,800. Mark, it gets cheaper each year. So after 5 years, you're paying $7,100. 7,001. Let me work that out a weekly. So 7,001 divided by 52, it goes down to 136. Principal. Oh, yeah, your payments or go down dramatically. After 10 years, you're paying. So you own it for 10 years, Mark. It's going to cost you $6,000 divided by 52, $115 a week to have that property. And let's say you're getting $400
now, Michael,
a week. Yes, Mark.
Hey, how much if I was renting the same property, as in I'm not going to be a first home buyer, I am just going to stay there and rent it, what would I rent that property for?
I'm so glad you asked. This has a rental income of about $400 a week.
So it's cheaper. So not only are you paying the puppy off, but you're also you own it, and your rent's never going to go up.
Yeah. So if you wanted a pay increase, give this 3 years, and you're going to be making, like from day one, you're making $20 a week. But after 5 years, you're making $200-300 a week, which is amazing. Plus, Mark, that doesn't include the capital growth. So you So you make 10 grand. You make 10 grand a year positive, but it goes up 5% a year, and now it's worth $500,000. So you've made 50 grand on the purchase, capital equity, and you're making 10 grand a year in cash.
Okay, let's do the maths. If you've so you've bought the property, you are paying off the property, you are living in the property. We've discovered that you only need $22,500 as a deposit. We've discovered that it's cheaper to buy it than to rent it if you can get that $22,500 together. And now we're discovering there's a massive hidden benefit. You're actually paying it off because you've got a principal and interest loan. So it sounds like you're paying off how much over 5 years?
Over 5 years, well, your repayments drop from $8,000 a year to $6,900. So your here it is. Sorry, your principal owing on year one is $416,000. So after 5 years, you owe $371,000. So if it goes up 50 grand, plus if it goes up 50 grand, Mark.
So it sounds like you're paying off 10 grand a year.
Yeah.
10 doesn't sound right. A loan of 400, probably 10, 50. Oh, actually, it's more towards the end. It accelerates probably towards the end. So it's the first couple of years. Let's just assume 10 a year, right? So you're paying off 10 a year. So you're actually much cheaper than renting. And for anyone who doesn't know, most suburbs in Sydney will double in 10 years. In fact, most suburbs in Sydney the last 50 years have doubled every 10 years.
Mark, I'll show you this, and this will, you know how people always look at someone who's buying a second property and they're like, well, how do they do that if they don't have a big income? They get the $22,000, they buy this property. But look at this, Mark. After 10 years, you're going to owe $310,000 on this unit. Now, it's probably gone up. It's probably gone up to $500,000. Let's say it's now worth 500 grand, Mark. That's conservative.
Yes.
10 years,
Michael.
Mark. So that means you've almost got $200,000 in equity, which you can use 80% of that to buy a property. So, ineffective after 10 years of just paying principal and interest, not saving another. Ineffective.
Yeah.
So basically, you're going to have $180,000 to use for another deposit for buying this property, just paying principal and interest off after 10 years. Not to mention, if you've saved half of your positive cash flow, you could have 220 grand. So that's the power of the compounding, Mark. And that's a wrap. I think that's anything else you want to add on to that? The power of buying. That's a really cool graph. I'm going to put the back link in there. I haven't checked this in years.
I'm going to tattoo that to my bum. So if you buy this property here, it's in fact, if you bought this 10 years ago, it still hasn't doubled. Okay, so there's room for doubling. When people say in the marketplace, oh, it's not going to double, it can't go up anymore. Well, guess what? It's doubled every 10 years, the last 15 years. We've got plenty of room for the market to go up, and it's not crazy times. That's a
Very
wrap.
true, Mr. Novak. That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Adios.
And you know what? I love this topic. I love, the
Because
Make
so
Money
many
Coach.
people don't understand. You said this the other day. You met a buyer who just didn't know. So as much as we think it's basic and redundant, especially for anyone watching Jeff, who's very familiar with a lot of stuff, it just reiterates, it keeps it top of mind. Send the video to a first home buyer or someone looking to get in the market, because it still astonishes us how many people don't know. Like, just don't know. This would be the equivalent. I don't know. It's almost like an Italian teacher teaching Italian and people don't know how to say hello. Like, you just think everyone knows how to say it, but people just don't. We can't stress that enough. We still come across buyers with so much more money than they needed to buy, and they don't think they have enough. Like, the amount of buddies I've spoken to, and like, oh, I've only got 150 grand. It's like, what do you mean only? What do you want to buy? $2 million property? Nah, 600 grand unit. It's like, you're ready. And like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You're ready. They just don't know.
It's true. It's true. And so if you can help us, help you, help your friends, help everyone, help, share this with a friend, tag a friend if you know someone that's this could be helpful for, and get this word out to people and get people into their first home or into an investment property. Give them the kindergarten maths from Michael Burgio and Mark Novak. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone, for watching.